Hello, this is Penni Z, library from the Amy Van Andel branch. That's beginning soon, formerly from the Cascade branch, but I'm going to be starting at the brand new library in Ada, that's opening in late January, so that's very exciting for me. Also exciting for me is tonight on What We're Reading. It's Tuesday at 6:30, so it is time for What We're Reading. And tonight I'm talking to Jeff Waringa from Centennial Securities. If that sounds familiar to you, it might be because you've been to one of our literary libations parties, one of KDL's fundraisers. Centennial Securities does a lot to support our fundraising, and Jeff has been there and spoken at a couple of those, and I've been able to listen to that. So Jeff is also a big reader. So Jeff, what are you reading?
Well, I've got two books I'm going to talk about. The first is I'm reading the Leonardo Da Vinci biography, or I'm listening to it, by Walter Isaacson. So it looks a lot like that.
Is that a real heavy book?
I'm sure it is. Listening to it, it's fairly long. So, but the nice thing is it's read by the actor Alfred Molina. So it's who I had no idea was British, but it's got this very nice British accent. And then when it gets to the Italian names, because there certainly are a lot of them, it's very heavy accented Italian. So you get like a really, it's not Leonardo, it's Leonardo. So it's interesting to listen to too.
So how much detail do they get in Leonardo?
A lot. It's crazy to me. They actually know not only the date, but roughly the time of his birth. I mean, back in the 1400s, which seems crazy to me that they would know that much detail. It's a little, if you're reading or listening to this while riding in a car, it probably doesn't work real well because he is an artist, and so they're talking specifically about paintings. I'm listening to it while I'm working because I need noise while I work. And so I can Google the painting and pull it up and see what they're talking about. But if you were just doing a long car trip, I'm not sure how well it would work. But maybe obviously everybody's seen like The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa and things like that.
So did he have an interesting life?
Very, yeah. Yeah, I mean, just all sorts of things, like learning he was an illegitimate child and his father was wealthy enough that was cool. If you were poor and illegitimate, it was a problem. But if your dad was rich and you were illegitimate, it's fine. So it was, that and all of like the various science pieces that he was able to put together centuries before other people were, with anatomy and some other mechanical things. Pretty remember incredible.
Drawings that look like helicopters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his entire life he was trying to figure out human-powered flight. They say in the book he actually designed a glider that a few years ago a British TV show built to his specifications, and it worked.
Sweet. Does it get into his love life and that kind of thing too?
Yeah, a little bit.
Is it appropriate with the kids in the car to listen to this book?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the nitty gritty, but yeah, it's pretty clear that he had a lover, but it's not like spelled out, it's just heavily alluded to.
Gotcha. And are you a big fan of biographies in general, or was this something out of your comfort zone?
No, I mostly read nonfiction. So it's either biographies or other kind of historical nonfiction stuff. So yeah, it's right in my wheelhouse.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, it's really interesting to hear some of who his contemporaries were, and the fact that he rarely finished paintings, or if he did, it would take him 10 plus years. Yeah,
So what happens
he
if
would
you
get
just leave?
he'd get commissions to do paintings and never finish it. So he actually has some that are considered masterpieces that he never finished.
Okay. Does he keep the commission then?
I think he usually did, but you know, he was an artist, so he wasn't. I mean, he was well regarded in his time, but he wasn't rich or anything.
Okay, so it's just called Leonardo da Vinci by Isaacson.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What's your other book?
My other book is, I mean, we're going from centuries ago to pretty current. It's called How to Astronaut by Terry Virts.
Oh, cool.
And
Also nonfiction.
it's really interesting. He was in space twice. He flew a space shuttle mission and then was on the International Space Station for 200 days. And so it goes through kind of all the questions he gets asked about being in space, from what does it feel like to be weightless to how do you shower and how do you go to the bathroom. And it's really short chapters. So it, unfortunately, then you do that thing where you go, oh, I'm just going to read one more. And then you do that 5 or 6 times and then it's pretty late.
Okay. So what did you learn about being an astronaut that you didn't already know?
Well, lots of things, but it's, his description of what it feels like to be weightless. He said it just feels like you're falling, like that process of you've tripped and you're falling. It just feels like that until they get used to it, which I don't think I'd like that at all.
No, that sounds horrible. Sounds like those dreams you have of when you're falling and then you wake up right before you hit the bottom. So you're just that way falling forever.
That's right. Yeah. Just do that for 200 days, apparently.
Oh,
well, thank you. But he talks about how cool it is to see like storms on Earth from up in the space station, and they can see the lightning and all that kind of stuff.
I wondered, do they just have normal conversations with each other while they're up there? I mean, are they isolated? Does it feel like solitude, or do they just sit and chat about things in their radio?
They, when they were on the space station, at least, he was there with a crew from the US, from NASA, and then there was a Russian crew up there at the same time. And so they would actually gather up the food they didn't want to eat during the week, and every Friday they would trade with the Russians for the food that they didn't want to eat for the week. But he said he spent a couple of years trying to learn Russian so he'd be able to converse with them face to face. And one of the interesting things, there was a woman up with him who was the first Italian in space. And so she was doing interviews constantly, and they sent him with her to her hairdresser so he could learn how to cut her hair in space so it would look good while she was being interviewed on the ground.
You're kidding me. That's not real. Yeah. That really happened?
That's in there, yeah. There's even pictures of him like cutting
wouldn't
her
she
hair
be weightless though? Wouldn't the hair be everywhere?
Yeah, her hair's like standing up and
I don't know how you would cut that. Okay.
There's a whole description in there about there was another person who was like getting it wet and then he was having to cut it, and it sounded like a real process.
So did they have any scares while they were up there?
Yes. the U.S. part of the International Space Station apparently uses ammonia to cool, and they had an ammonia leak sensor go, so they had to kind of semi-evacuate to the Russian side of the space station. And, there was kind of real concern about if they were going to be able to figure it out and get back. And it turned out to be a false alarm, but it was a false alarm. Then they sent them back, and then they said, nope, we don't think it's a false alarm. So they had to go back to the Russian side. And then they said it was a false alarm. So they were able to go back in their area. But I guess I hadn't realized how big of a problem something like ammonia would be in the space station if it leaked, but it would be a massive problem.
I'm sure a lot of things would be a massive problem.
Yeah.
Kind of living on the razor's edge there.
Well, and he talked too about they constantly have to kind of change altitude to avoid junk, space junk.
Ooh, what kind of junk's up there?
Well, satellites. There are apparently a couple different countries that decided to show off that they had technology to blow up satellites in space. So there's just the debris from that floating around up there, and then just old satellites that are still together, but maybe not functional anymore or just in the way.
Gotcha. So how do you dodge a debris like that? Is it just constant?
Apparently you change elevation.
Oh.
Everything they got up there is fairly fragile.
Gotcha. So which one did you like best, Da Vinci or the Astronaut?
It kind of, Da Vinci, you kind of have to pay more attention to because there's just so much that he did. The Astronaut one, like I said, the chapters are really short, so it's good for just kind of a quick read. And most of it, he's got a pretty good sense of humor, so it's not serious. He makes a point of not just speaking in acronyms like I think you probably could with NASA.
Yeah.
So it's a much easier read. So it kind of depends what you're looking for, but for easy to read, it's How to Astronaut. For just learning about an incredible life, it's the Da Vinci one.
Okay, I'm going to sneak in my book. I know I told you if you read two that I might not, but I'm going to sneak one in because it's so timely. When else am I going to be able to do this? I always encourage people to read with their families right now, if you can, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Because although it's a classic and it's beautiful language, what most people don't realize about A Christmas Carol, it's great to share with teens because it is funny. It is so funny. He starts it out, Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. Doesn't that suck you in? Wouldn't that suck a teen in? I mean, but it's full of jokes, and it's also written in that Victorian language, so you almost can't help but read it in voices when you're reading it, because just the cadence of his writing and the archaic words that he uses, it kind of makes you speak like you're in Victorian England, and it's a lot of fun. And if you're shy about it, if you don't want to read like a Victorian English person, I would recommend doing this on audiobook. The library has it on Hoopla with no waiting, and also we can download it on Overdrive to listen to it and listen to it as a family. I made my kids listen to me read until they were in high school. And this is one I think everyone will like together. So 'tis the season, if you're of a mind, for Charles Dickens. And because you did too, the one other I'm going to plug is Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi, because I am involved in KDL's Anti-Racist Book Club. So if anyone wants to have a more traditional kind of book club, we are going to be discussing on January 20th, Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. And if you would like to come, read the discussion, and come. We're having it over Zoom, so it's completely safe, and it's on January 20th, which is a Wednesday at 7. Call the library, 784-2007, and ask for the Zoom information. We can give you the meeting passcode, and you'll be able to come and talk about Stamped from the Beginning. Stamped from the Beginning is Kindy's award-winning, it won the National Book Award, award-winning history of racism in the United States. And it is eye-opening. It takes a bit to get into, and there's a lot. He starts it talking about Cotton Mather. Do you remember Cotton Mather?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. In the very beginning of the creation of this nation, he was grandchild of Mather and Cotton, both of them religious personas of the day, who were also deep thinkers and part of the founding of the first university. And he was related to both of them. So he was carrying on the tradition of the Cottons and the Mathers. But Kindy talks about everything that he had to say rationalizing slavery in the United States and what a beginning that was. And he takes us through different people in the United States history and talks about their take on race. So it's a very interesting historic perspective, and it's footnoted. And so, you're getting exactly the primary sources of what they said and where this all came from. So it's a really fascinating read. If you want to talk about that, the Anti-Racist Book Club is January 20th. I know this is right up your alley, Jeff, because you like historical and biography. You need to immediately check this out and read it so you can join us on January 20th for the discussion.
I have to beat the rush?
Yes. Quick, put it on hold. So what are you reading next? Do you have one on deck?
I do. Actually, I just got notified today that my hold was in. It's a book by Ray Dalio, who you probably don't know, but he's in the finance world, and he's got principles that his firm runs by, and they're pretty interesting. It's like he insists on total honesty, no matter who you are and no matter who you're talking to. So no matter where you are in the totem pole, if you have something to say to him, you better say it. And so it's the principles that his firm runs on, and I want to check it out and see what it is.
Yeah. Do you know what it's called?
It's called Principles.
Principles.
His name is Ray Dalio.
Ray Dalio. Like it. Okay, now we've given you lots of books to check out tonight. Thanks for coming, Jeff. I want to remind everybody to come back next week. Next week, I've got Miranda, who's going to tell us what she's reading and also a book for kiddos. So come and join me and Miranda next week for what we're reading, Tuesday at 6:30. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you.
And say good night to everybody.